Hello, I'm Jennifer Antkowiak, the founder of Take Care Tips, where we help you take care of yourself while you're taking care of others. And we are thrilled today to have Dr. David Nace with us. He is the chief of the Division of Geriatric Medicine for the University of Pittsburgh and UPMC. It would be great to talk with him any time, but especially during November and National Family Caregiver Month. It's so great to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks, Jennifer. It's great to be here.
And with all of your extensive experience in geriatric medicine, in the aging population, when you hear National Family Caregiver Month, what comes into your mind about the challenges that are out there right now for caregivers?
There are a tremendous amount of challenges for caregivers now, and I think it's great that this month is here so that we can actually focus on this particular need. So we're seeing changes in caregiver access due to a number of different factors. And so I think the workforce in general of professional caregivers is one that is sort of in jeopardy because those numbers are decreasing. At the same time that we're seeing an increase in need among patients and family members. So the number of people needing a caregiver is going to be increasing and has been increasing, and the supply of those caregivers is starting to go down.
Mm-hmm. I've heard the word crisis attached to this situation. Do you agree?
Absolutely. So between 2016 and 2019, the Pennsylvania Department of Aging put together, through our Long-Term Care Council, a blueprint that was entitled the Pennsylvania's Blueprint to Address the Direct Care Workforce Crisis. So that really was a term that we strategically picked because we know that this is really a tsunami of need that is moving forward. And we don't have enough individuals to kind of really fill in those roles. So it can't be underestimated in terms of the severity of this shortage.
And when you look at the people who we might find to step into these roles, they're volunteers, right? For the most part, they're family members. I know when I was a caregiver myself, I thought, okay, wait a minute, I don't even take medicine myself. I have to manage medicine. I've got to manage appointments. I've got to coordinate medical people. They're being asked to step into these huge roles, and that's stressful, right? For people, it's stressful because they love this person, and how am I supposed to do my best when I don't even know what I'm doing? And that leads to burnout and anxiety on an emotional level, stress on a physical level. So how can we support them knowing that that's the role that they're stepping into?
Yeah, it's an issue where we're seeing this transition from the more traditional long-term care sites of care, nursing homes, assisted living, independent living, and we're seeing more and more people staying in the home and community setting. And as a result of that, the need actually falls on family members or friends in order to provide that level of support. And, most of us have never been trained. Those of us who are parents were never trained to be a parent. We were also never trained to be a caregiver in that whole process. So it's learning those skills. How do I manage the medications? What's the best way to set up a pillbox for someone so that they can, remember to take their medications, making sure that you balance and juggle things. What we see today, oftentimes we talk about the sandwich generation, where you have people 18 years of age or younger living with you, but you're also caring for an older parent or an older loved one. So there are a lot of difficulties that come with that. And as you mentioned, we see sometimes stress. We might see depression. We might see just fatigue, tired. We also see anxiety, sometimes guilt. All of those things kind of come along with the increased burden that happens. I also think, though, it's important to step back and recognize that that's not necessarily a given for caregivers. And will not be there all the time. And there are actually some really tremendously positive aspects of caregiving that we have to also recognize that can occur. Just like being a parent, being a parent isn't always wonderful roses and flowers. There are times where you're just thinking, oh my gosh, what did I get into? Mm-hmm. And the same thing happens with caregiving. So you recognize that caregiving is a spectrum from all of those things kind of put together. So watching out for those signs where I might be starting to burn out a little bit. I'm more fatigued. I'm a little bit irritable. It's okay to recognize that. It doesn't mean you're bad. That's the first thing that I think people need to stop and think about. It's a hard, stressful job.
Yeah. We like to say the burdens scream, the blessings whisper, sometimes of caregiving, right? And so if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not even going to be able to be aware of those blessings because you're kind of spiraling in the negativity that can happen sometimes. And with Take Care Tips, what we try to do is give people just little 10-minute action plans to have them take baby steps. And I remember when I was a caregiver and had 5 little kids and a job outside of the home and running ragged, I learned that, hold on a minute, even a little 10-minute break did a lot to recharge me. Do you agree with that? And maybe you have some advice for people on those little 10-minute moments in their day.
Absolutely. You have to take a break. You can't be on fully 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You have to be able to take a time to step back, just relax. If nothing else, just to simply reflect on whatever blessing it is that might have happened in the course of the day. Mm-hmm. Look for those good things. Seek them out, because those are the things that ultimately you will remember. 40, 50 years down the line after this has passed, or 20 years down the line, whatever the time frame may be, if you look back on it, more than likely you're not going to remember all the bad things so much as you'll remember all the good things. The times you've had chance to spend time talking to your mother, your father, your grandmother, learning stories, hearing things, even chuckling about the things that went wrong. Mm-hmm. And do you remember the time where we tried to do this and this didn't work out and it was a disaster? But you can look back and laugh. I think the thing that you need to think about most is it's not going to be all those negative things. Those will be meaningless. It really is something that you need to reflect on the good things. So take some time, spend a little bit of time just reflecting. I think it's helpful for people to do something like journaling. Just sit down, just write a couple of thoughts down. And then, later at some point, you can go back and just reflect. What were the feelings? What were the things I was thinking about during that time frame? Mm-hmm. So,
a lot of times, too, people talk about how a caregiving situation has the potential, anyway, to tear families apart because everybody has a different opinion on what needs to happen. Some are more present than others, and there's some bitterness that can bubble up. We cared as a family for my father-in-law in our home, and again, the positives are there. My kids grew up learning this is how a family comes together to take care of somebody when needed. And you can't, that's invaluable, yeah. Right? So the blessings are there for sure. I know that really nobody wants to go back to the height of the pandemic in their minds even, right? But you really were one that leapt into action to help in a lot of ways. Are there things that we learned, especially related to caregiving and long-term care, that translate for us now that we can take from that to help us to move forward in a stronger way?
Yeah, there are a number of things we've learned out of the pandemic. First and foremost is the dangers of social isolation. I think that's both for the caregiver as well as for the person receiving the care. So we need to engage both individuals to maintain social connections because that sense of connectedness, belonging, community is a comfort for us. It's the comfort food, right? Macaroni and cheese, right? So I think maintaining that is important. Again, finding ways to take time. There's also a thing from a caregiver perspective I think you need to be worried about is that sense of guilt. Yeah. A lot of family members during the pandemic, the uncertainty, the dangers, all of that, the decision was to pull the person back to their home for a period of time. And in the early part of the pandemic, that worked well because everything was shut down for a while. And so people had time to be the caregiver. Through telework and telecommuting and return to work, those demands started to increase again because then you were providing the care and you were returning to work, and whether it was remotely or in person, and that added some additional stress. And so what we ended up seeing was a lot of times individuals would say, boy, I just can't do this anymore because the amount of care has increased. And there was guilt that was associated with that. And it's okay to understand that that's what you're feeling and to recognize that you can't provide that care. Sometimes, as much as we all would say, I'd like to stay in my own home forever. My father was one of those individuals. He told me, I'm going out of the house feet first. That was his, he was spent his life working to get to that home.
Yeah.
And that's what he had wanted to do. He wanted to take care of Mom. She passed away about 7 years before him, but that was important to him. Ultimately, he ended up in a nursing facility for about 6 months. And while it is not what he preferred, he still had a lot of fun. My father ended up doing artwork. Mm-hmm. It was not very good. They had a pumpkin carving contest and all these beautiful swans and ducks, and his was the creature of the Black Lagoon. So, even having to go into a facility was not a failure because it's what he needed at that point. So we often say, I don't want to put my mom in a home or my father in a home. It's not putting them in a home, and it's not a reflection of your failure. It's a reflection of the fact that the needs are great, and this is the best thing for them at the moment. So,
I love that you're addressing this because caregivers are superheroes, right? They are superheroes. And for them to take on that guilt or that worry about, am I not doing this the right way, is just insult to injury, right? So your talk gives them the freedom. Hopefully, everybody's really paying attention to what you're saying so that they can release that and understand the incredible things that they're doing, the superhuman things that they're doing in many ways. So as we move through November, if you could be in the room with a bunch of caregivers, what would you look them in the eyes and want them to know, especially about how to take care of themselves and honor themselves this month?
So making sure they understand to take care of themselves, to give themselves the break, to let go of the guilt. Like I said, reflect or maybe even write down something good that has happened. One person that's very near and dear in our family writes down all these positive things that happens and puts them in a box for later. Take time to do that because it's going to be important for you. Utilize some of that time, if you can, to collect information on your family history. Some of the most wonderful time that I spent with my father was finding out a lot of the secrets of things I never understood. Because once your family member's gone, you don't have that chance to go back. So enjoy the time. As much as it is stressful, recognize it's a demanding job. And I think also just recognize you're really doing something very valuable and very important.
That's wonderful. Dr. Nace, thank you so much for being here with us and for all you do to support our aging community and our caregivers. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.